All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the What's New Mama podcast. And today we have a very special guest. Her name is Nathalie. If you see her right over here.
Thank you. Thank you for that marvelous introduction.
I always mess it up because I forget to say we're your hosts, Amy and Giselle, and then I should introduce the guest. But yeah, so we're your hosts, Amy and Giselle, and we have a special guest named Nathalie on. I've known Nathalie, we've been in like the same circle for like over 10 years at this point.
Sure, definitely.
And I have a very specific memory of one of the first times that I spoke to you. And I'm pretty sure it's probably not something that sticks out in your mind at all, but it's definitely something that sticks out in my mind. And it's because of your beautiful curly hair that I also had, but I never grew up to embrace it. And so I remember when I saw you, I was like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. Like, look at her hair. Like, see, like, you're like, I have no idea what she's talking about.
No, I know that. I appreciate that.
But it's so important to have, I feel like, female figures or people that look like you and are proudly showing their features that in the Latino community, I feel like it's kind of like, oh, you need to straighten your hair, you need to do all that. And I remember we were online you were like hosting something. You were like a hostess or something for a club or something downtown. And I was there with Jess and my brother, and you were letting us in. And I remember seeing you and I was like, wow, look at her. Like, I guess I can wear my hair like that, and I just didn't know how to because there was no YouTube tutorial or influencers that had that type of hair or hair products for that matter too.
It's true. But yeah, how different things are now when embracing the natural look and embracing like your own type of beauty, etc. Because I was the same. I had the relaxer in my hair forever, and then I did like the keratin treatment. Yeah. So I tried everything. I'm just happy that I still have hair.
Yes. We've all gone through the relaxer journey. I definitely did the keratin until I found out that could cause cancer. Like it has formaldehyde. Like it was crazy. Like, the things that we put in our hair.
And you never thought about it, right? Because it's burning your eyes when you're getting it. And the person has a mask on. But anything for beauty.
Well, that was the thing, right? Growing up, I could get it.
Beauty is pain. Beauty is pain all the time.
Yeah, But anyway, I always remember that. Like, obviously, I met you before, but that's the memory that sticks out in my head because that was one of those, I don't know, what do you call it? It's not coming of age moments, but that was definitely a moment in my life that means something to me that to you was just like, yeah, Romel's little sister or whatever.
And you have beautiful curly hair.
Well, thank you.
And so do your nieces.
Yeah,
girl,
they have beautiful hair.
I don't know how they do it with all that. Bless her hands.
Okay. So I did want to highlight that because I don't even think I shared that with you up until now. But today what we're going to talk about is your journey through your pregnancies and what that looked like even before, like the conversation with your husband, like what that looked like when you guys wanted to start a family. And I know you went through rounds of IVF, right? To conceive. And so I guess what we want to do is we want to shed light on what that looks like in case there is any other mother out there that's struggling or doesn't know what route to take, and also what to expect if they are heading into that journey. So I would say we'll lead it off with Nathalie, and you could take the floor.
Thank you. So, thank you guys for creating this forum to have these like open conversations because it is a rarity. We were just talking about hair and something as simple as hair that you never know how one simple task can impact someone else. I kind of feel it's very comparable to IVF, right? Because when I first found out everything, I was in my early 30s. So the way that it kind of came about was just having conversations with my girlfriends, and one of them was going through her own like gynecological issues, And she's like, I never thought that this was whatever could have been a possibility for me. You guys should get yourselves checked out. And I was like, well, I'm the first one to be like, I'm going to the doctor because X, Y, and Z, just because of my history, and I'll go into that in a bit. And so I went to the GYN, and just for a regular routine. And I told her at that point, I think Greg and I had been together for 2 years.
Okay.
And I was like, we've been trying, because that's what you're supposed to say, right?
Yeah.
You've been trying to get pregnant, and nothing is happening. So they referred me to a specialist to have a test done. And this test, I don't remember exactly what it stands for, but it's called the HSC.
Okay.
And essentially what they do is they inject a dye into your fallopian tube to see if it passes, right? And if it passes, then that's good, because they're clear and that's not the issue. And then they can continue to delve further and then go from there. What they didn't tell me was that if it doesn't pass, it's an extremely excruciatingly painful test. Because now you just have dye sitting there
that's stuck
in your tubes that can't go anywhere until you like drinking a fluid and whatever.
Oh my God.
So I'm none the wiser, and I'm going back to work, right? So why not, right? Why do we take days off? We don't need them, right? So I go, I have this test, and I just feel very uncomfortable. They're like, oh, just take some Tylenol, right?
Everything is Tylenol.
And I went back to work. I went back to work, and I couldn't even sit up. Like, I think I took a taxi home, and for like the next 2 days, I was in excruciating pain. And that's when I found out that not only is one of my tubes blocked, but the other one is dilated. So in order for me to be able to conceive, I could try, but that put me at a higher risk of an ectopic pregnancy. And, that can be fatal, right? Because if, God forbid, the embryo gets stuck and et cetera, doesn't get caught in time.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of Grey's Anatomy, so. It could result, whatever. So when I spoke to the surgeon, which was the next step, her recommendation was to remove my fallopian tube, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Maybe that's not severe,
like,
right?
But how did they go from one, let's try this, let's figure it out, to let's just remove it? Like, there was no in between. They also didn't even give you a heads up of the symptoms that you would feel. Did you give them that feedback? Like, did you tell them, hey, okay.
I did. And I told them, I said, I'm understanding that this process is brand new to me, but I was like going in not knowing that this was going to be uncomfortable if I had these, if this was the result, was devastating. Because you're like, what is going on with my body, right? You're going into this test that they make it seem routine. Everything is routine, right?
Yeah.
And then you leave and you feel like trash, right?
Yeah.
And your body is not reacting the way that it's supposed to react. And then you find out these news, right? That the best course of action is to just take them out, right?
Well, but how soon after the procedure did you start getting those symptoms? Like, was it the next day? It was right away.
Right away. It was right away. It was like discomfort at first, and that because of the distance that the office was to my job, I walked. And as I'm walking, I'm feeling more and more discomfort, and I'm sitting at my desk, and I'm getting very pale, and I'm just like, I don't feel well, like. And it's just like really, really severe cramping that is consistent. It's just not going away. So Tylenol, it wasn't it.
Yeah.
It wasn't it. And, I'm one of those individuals, and I know that everybody has their preference for physicians. But when it comes to things with gynecology and anything related, my preference is female. And a lot of it has to do from that experience. Because it was a male doctor that kind of like, oh no, you'll be fine. Like kind of like
dismissing.
Don't worry about it. Yeah. And as he's doing the test, I'm like, this feels uncomfortable. He's like, it's gonna pass. Don't worry. And I'm just like, don't tell me not to worry.
Like, I was like, did you do it?
Yeah. Do you know how this feels?
Let me inject the dye in your situation, and then you tell me, don't worry.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, this was a male doctor that did it at the time. Didn't explain the follow-up, not even the nurse, because there's a nurse in the room too.
Yeah.
So nobody took the initiative to say, hey, let's give this patient a heads up and let her know what to expect afterwards.
Nothing. It was a surprise party that nobody wanted to be at.
Yeah.
So it was just like, I think from that experience, and it's funny talking about it, I'm like, I think that's from, like, it was such a traumatic experience for me because it was so excruciating that I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna stick to what I know, and more so going off of the physician first, right? Not ruling out all male physicians because whatever, but I think when it comes to gynecological exams or anything like that, because of that experience, it was so traumatizing for me that I just kind of like, unless it's extremely necessary, and especially with going through IVF, I'll talk about that a little bit too. That's more kind of, I try to stay away from that.
Yeah.
From male providers, and especially because I didn't get all the details.
Right.
So I think
you found a new provider. After that happened.
He just did the test. He wasn't even like my doctor, and I did bring that back to the surgeon, and so I went back, because of so just to kind of take a step back, I have a really extensive surgical history prior to this. So how fallopian tubes get blocked, there's not really an answer because there's a lot of different variables that can happen throughout the course of your life that could lead to that. But when I was a baby, I was born with like 2 ureters on my left side, which is the string that holds up your kidney.
Okay.
And that led to decreased kidney function. And so, long story short, I only have 1 kidney. They had to remove my left kidney. And that was, I was a baby, so it was fairly early. I have a scar. I have 2 scars. I have a scar going down my belly. I have 1 vertical and 1 horizontal. 1 on the side, going like sideways, and then I have 1 in the middle. So that's just my like surgical background with that, which is pretty crazy for like an 18-month-old baby.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I went in. So I went to the surgeon, and she's like, it's an easy procedure. She's like, we're going to go in laparoscopically, and we should be able to take out your tube. However, because of your surgical history, if we're not able to do that, we're going to have to reopen your belly. So they're going to have to reopen my scar. So I'm like, all right, cool, fine. Go into the surgery, which any type of procedure that you're putting me under, sign me up, because that anesthesia is great.
But wait, so am I following this right? You actually like went in and agreed to remove your tubes at that point?
Yeah, I did. Okay. I did. Because for me, it was more like, I never really thought about what IVF was, right? I didn't think it was this big beast that it was. I was just like, okay, it's IVF, it's fine. I never knew much about it, right? It was more like, all right, we'll just go this route and it'll be fine, and I won't have any issues because I'm 31, right? I'm still fairly young. I won't have any issues.
Did you know anybody around you that had IVF before you?
Not at that point.
Okay.
Not at that point. I found out a little bit after, and she kind of mentored me through my first kind of experience.
Yeah.
And it was just by chance. And I found that out after I had the surgery because when I went in to have the surgery, they couldn't do it laparoscopically. They had to reopen me again.
Oof.
And essentially disrupt my bowel system, my digestive system, because they had to go in and, take out my tube. So what happened with that? That led to I was in the hospital for almost 2 months after that, because as a result of them disrupting my digestive system, anything that you touch in there, is super sensitive. And it led me to have a small bowel obstruction. And so I couldn't, I was in the hospital after that first surgery when they removed my tube. I was in the hospital for 2 days because they just wait for you to pass gas and then they say that you're okay. So I was in the hospital for 2 days, and when I went home, I'm like, I don't feel well. They gave me oxy and I took a pill, and I felt worse. I was like, this really hurts. I can't keep anything down. I spoke to my surgeon. She was amazing. She gave me her cell number, and I don't like to overdo it, but I'm like, I'm in a lot of pain. So she was like, just go to the emergency room, and then go from there. So at that point, I was like, I'm not going back to this original hospital because you guys released me too early. Yeah. I'm going to go to the hospital that's local to me and near my parents at that time or whatever. So I went to the hospital, and that's when they told me that I had a small bowel obstruction, and that, they were going to try to see if it can pass. Because for the most part, it does pass. Whatever is stuck will go through the intestines and make its way out. It wasn't happening with me. And the doctor, the surgeon, the original surgeon that I met, he was really steadfast on, I don't want to open you up. I don't want to make any more disruptions, because what's happening was now I was getting adhesions. So I was getting little adhesions throughout my intestine as a result of the obstruction. And now I'm not eating. So I'm not eating. I can't pass anything. And it's like I can hear my stomach. Like I can hear everything. And it was terrible. So this went on for 5 weeks, me in and out of the hospital, because they would release me. They would take me for x-rays, and it was a lot until they finally went back in a little less than a month later to do the surgery. And they took out my appendix too. He was like, I don't want to have to go, I don't want to go back in
Let's
there.
just do it all at once.
He was like, you don't need this. Let's take it out. I was like, that's fine. As long as it doesn't add to the pounds, I'm good. I was like, matter of fact, since you're there, can you snip a little, being silly, right? Like, do a little bit of sculpting, nipping it, but he was opposed to it, fine, because of ethics. But so once I had that surgery to like correct that, then it was kind of like, all right, so let's figure out how to move next. One of my friends referred me to a physician at Cornell who was amazing. Her name is Samantha Pfeiffer, and she was just great, very honest, like about her business, but she's also very compassionate and very caring. And this is when I found out what a monster IVF was, because that's when I discovered that not only did I have to pay for the medications out of pocket because my insurance didn't cover it, but whatever balance I had to also cover that as well. And without insurance, IVF can run up to $25,000 to $40,000, and
per
I'm like,
round, right?
Yes,
per round, yeah.
And it's independent of the cost to the clinics, etc. The medications are extremely expensive, right? Because you're thinking these are follicle stimulating hormones, and it's not a lot. It's like 900 micrograms, and it's like this big. The vial is this big. And with this physician, I then found out as we're doing the cycle, they call them protocols. As we're doing my protocol, and I don't remember the specifics of it, I just know that I was at the highest amount of follicle stimulating hormones because I had low ovarian reserve, meaning that I wasn't producing a lot of eggs. So whereas some people, you're like, oh, they can get 20 or 40 eggs that are, not necessarily great quality, but they can get more. I was only producing 3 or 4. Wow. So, these are things that you don't know until you start to get tested for. Mm-hmm. And they should be standard, right? Because the expectation, I feel, is always for us to conceive, right? To be able to create a family, to do this. There's a lot of expectations thrust upon us as women. Yeah. But it's also hard because where are we going to go to get these resources unless you're asking? Right. Because if my friend wouldn't have had that conversation with me, I wouldn't have been like, let me go lie to my doctor and tell her that, I've been trying to conceive. Right. Yeah, because that would have never been at the forefront of my mind. I would have just gone through life until we were ready and there, and then, tried, and then I would have found out the hard way, right? I would have been probably in my mid to late 30s and nothing to show for harder, it. Yeah. Exactly.
So what did that feel like for you during that time when the doctor said, this is how many eggs the average woman your age produces, this is what you're currently producing? Like, how did that feel? Because again, like you said, you didn't know to ask these questions, and you would have never found this out. So how, like that, I can't even imagine how that would have felt, because at that point you and Greg had already spoken about starting a family, had plans, aspirations to start that. So like, did you think, oh my God, this journey is so daunting, like should we not even try? Or was it, we're going to do whatever it takes to get to that?
I think it was a combination of feelings, right? Like feeling inadequate, right? Because your body is supposed to, I control my body to a certain degree, right? So I'm supposed to be able to do this, and I can't do it. And there's really nothing that I can do on my end besides go through the IVF route to be able to successfully try to conceive. Right. So in determining that, I had low ovarian reserve, she, went with the medications, the course that she did. And by the grace of God, the first time that we did it, it worked.
Wow.
So, which is very rare. I think I can't remember exactly the percentages at that time because this was in 2016, 2017. It was like maybe 35% of couples that try to conceive the first round work. And we didn't do pre-genetic testing, which is also, PGT testing on the embryo. We didn't do any of that. It was just like, all right.
Well, they don't usually push that either till after you turn 35 anyway. Correct. Unless you want to pay for it out of pocket, which is another expense. Like, it's such a scam. This medical system is such a scam because if you want something that you feel is probably a necessity right now for you, they were like, yeah, you could pay out of pocket because the insurance company doesn't think you need it. So, yeah. And it's just so crazy.
And, to your point, right? Like I'm in healthcare. I'm in healthcare administration, and I've been working in healthcare administration since I was in my teens. And so knowing what I know about billing, knowing what I know about insurances, knowing what I know about the execution of healthcare services, and the fact that I was working in a hospital and my benefits were lackluster.
Barely covering this expensive procedure. That was a necessity.
It's crazy. And it's like, and the difficulty for me, right, as a healthcare worker is, why is it that this is something that is so prevalent in women, and it's only until you're begging and pleading that you're getting this, or you have to submit this documentation, or you have to do this or do that. Like, nobody wants to have to do IVF. Like, nobody has to, like, nobody really wants to. We do it because we have to. We do it because, well, at least from my perspective, right? I did it because I there was no other option for me. Right? That was the only route. If I wanted to make sure that we had our family, this was the route that I had to take. Otherwise, I risked myself or just not having anything at all. And, it's not lost on me that we were very fortunate that it worked for us that first time.
How long did that?
We still had 2 embryos.
Okay. So that first time, because obviously you went through it a couple of times, but that first time, what was the duration of those treatments? What did it look like as far as the injections go? Because if I understand it correctly, you inject it directly to your stomach, and it's like, what is it, every week, every day? Like, what did that look like?
So my protocols have all been kind of similar. So you're injecting the follicle stimulating hormone. So medication wise, it's either Gonalef or Follistim. And then there's another medication called Menopur, and I don't remember exactly what that does, but you're injecting it on your butt, so like on the top of your butt. So I was alternating sides because these needles are not huge, but it is what it is.
It hurts.
They're very painful, and Greg doesn't have the stomach for it, and I'm just like, for me, it was just like, I'd rather do it myself anyway.
So you did it yourself every time?
That's right. She was like, I'm doing it
every time.
Oh my God.
So I would do it myself, and then like if it was like a spot that I couldn't reach, then he would go in, and I'm like, all right. It was more fun for me to watch.
You're like, do not turn, do not twist that needle.
And the biggest, I mean, I think, independent of the actual needle hurting, you're bruised, right? Like, then these bruises last for months. So the protocols typically last between, I want to say, a week to maybe 3 weeks, because you're going for monitoring every 2 to 3 days. They want to make sure that whatever follicles are growing to a certain amount, so that they can give you the medication to stop it. I think it's called the antagonist medication, to stop the follicles from growing. And then you go in, I think 30 something hours later, and then they're able to retrieve it.
Okay.
Retrieve the egg. And then for us, you can there's the option to do a fresh transfer or a frozen transfer. And we did a fresh one, which means that, he goes and does his business in their andrology lab.
Yeah.
And they're able to, there is a process also called ICSI, where they take the egg and the sperm and they manually put it together.
Wow.
And these embryologists, they embryologize.
Yeah. Like this is
Um,
also like
it
scientific and like
it is.
detailed. But
It
like
is.
the
And
fact that you even followed along and know these details, because if it were me, I would be like, well, they put the egg and the sperm, they put it together somehow. I don't know, but you know the details of how that. Do you feel like that's because of your medical background, like working in that type of industry, like medical admin, or was it just you needed to do your research because this was so like unknown that you were like, I'm gonna dig in and I'm gonna know every single step of the way?
it's a combination of factors because yeah, the interest was there because my goal when I was younger was to be a physician, right? So I have a lot of interest in like medical knowledge and that, but you have to sign waivers. So I was
Yeah.
you have to sign these waivers, and
Yeah.
in order for you, and you have to pay for ICSI. At that point, you have to pay for it. It wasn't automatic.
Okay.
So it was like an additional $2,000, and I'm like, no, just let it swim. No, put it where it needs to be. I'm already
Yeah.
paying this money. Like,
If you're
don't ask
gonna
me
do it, you
questions.
go all the way in.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly. And so around that time, because you had asked me if there was a mentor, if I knew someone, there's a woman that I was working with, and I was working in the hematology oncology department at that point,
Mm.
and she was a masseuse. So she would come in and she would give the patients massages, and this woman, like the sweetest person in the world, and I by chance, I don't even remember exactly how I found out, but she had gone through IVF,
Okay.
or she was going through IVF. So a lot of the messaging and the advice I got was from her. And
Okay.
so I even found there's like organizations. Resolve is a big one that is for IVF patients, and my best friend had found like a group of
Mm-hmm.
women that had like a meetup, and it was like her and I went, and it was like a cry fest. Like it was
Oh,
so
yeah.
it was more like therapeutic because you're hearing all these different, and it goes so many different ways. I
Yeah.
feel like not every one individual has the same story. We might have
Right.
similarities, but as a result of that group, I was able to connect with a lot of individuals that you can either buy medication from them, or some of them are giving medication away because it's so expensive.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of high profile people that go through these processes
Yeah.
that people don't know.
It's more
So
common than we think.
yeah, it's extremely common. And so, I was able to obtain medication and things like that. Um, because and do the same, right? Like pay it forward, because for me it's not, I already spent money on the medication. If I can help someone else,
Right.
to give you a vial that it's not open and everything is not tampered with, or
Right.
whatever. So that helped,
You
and with
rather
this
give it to somebody
individual,
that could use it than throw it out. Yeah.
exactly.
And this was
So
Resolve. The group was called Resolve.
it's called
Well,
Resolve. I think that's
I'll
right.
add it in the description. Like
Yeah,
you'll send me details and
and
stuff.
they have a lot of resources and things like that. And I haven't looked it up for a long time. But they have a lot of resources, and this was through email, like, because you're not supposed to obviously exchange drugs with people, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
desperate times call for desperate
Yeah.
measures. And again, it ended up working out for us, right? Because
Yeah.
we were able to, after this first round, with this first round, we were able to conceive our son right away, and he'll be 6 in like 3 weeks. So
Aw. Yeah.
that's the that's a nice bow that happened
Yeah. Yeah.
with that one. I think the challenges were when we were trying to go again, right? Because
Gotcha.
we had 2 frozen embryos, and tried to, no, I think it was 4, because the first time she did one, it didn't work. And it was again so what happens with this type of situation when you're going to a frozen embryo without
Mm-hmm.
having to do the whole medication again. There are a few
Yeah.
medications, but because I'm not overstimulating my follicles or anything like that, it's different, right? So
Uh-huh.
my body is not going through all this medication and
The
hormones and
hormonal.
all that
Yeah.
other stuff. So um they saw the embryo, and that's also a challenge because not every embryo makes it through the thaw.
Right.
They saw the embryo. This was like the second round. It didn't work. Very devastating, right? Because I'm spoiled, right? Because it worked the first time,
It
so it's
worked
gonna
the
work
first
again.
time. Yeah.
definitely
And that
does.
also messes you up mentally too and emotionally, because then you're like, what did we do wrong? Was
Exactly.
it worked the first time? Like, how is this not taking now?
And knowing my son now the way that he is, I understand why it worked the first time. Because this kid is not a quitter. He is. It makes sense. It makes sense as to why it works.
And also, it was a different procedure too. One was fresh, right? Like, well,
Exactly.
that was the word you used, right? Fresh, and then one was frozen.
Fresh.
So,
and the probabilities, I think, are higher with fresh embryos than frozen. But again, statistically, that's not my strong suit. So that's from what I know. And then so that second round was one embryo, and it didn't take. So what I asked her was, I said, look, we have 2 more frozen embryos. Can we just do both? Why not? Let's see if one takes, right? Neither one of them took. They were like, nope, peace, we're not gonna do it. And and then at that point I was just like, okay, so we gotta figure out the course of action, right? So let's switch gears. It was just very far for me to travel because they had moved offices. And I was working in like Midtown at that point, and I was just like, I need to find something closer. So can you guys recommend me to someone else? And then I went to another organization. I went to RMA. And I was referred to Dr. Giovanna Lakovic, who is amazing. Like, her energy is crazy. Like, she is just such an amazing individual. And we did the genetic testing when I met with her, genetic testing and everything like that. And I still had the same issue. I don't produce a lot of eggs.
How old were you at that point?
So I had Mason, I want to say he's going to be 6 now. He's at 33.
Okay.
33. And at this point, I think I was 36.
Okay. Yeah, so the genetic testing was definitely a necessity at that point.
For sure. So I'm 36 and I'm still tired, right? Because
you have Mason a chase after, and you're going through this process too.
I'm of advanced maternal age is the
well, I think Jess, when I was talking to Jess about it, she's like, yeah, after you hit 35, you're geriatric. Like, they consider you like old, and you need all the testing done, and it's so crazy. But
it's just come with Botox.
But yes.
It should come with Botox. Okay.
Just before, after the pregnancy though, or before, after breastfeeding. Both. But no. So you did all the testing. You found another doctor that you really enjoyed, being with.
Yeah. And then so we went with this doctor who was much closer. It was just easier, like, for me. And it worked. So that was our second.
Did they do something different? Did they do a fresh surrogate? Like, what did they do?
We did genetic testing, so we were able to understand which embryos were normal, right? So what happens is, once they put the embryo, the egg and the sperm together, and before they freeze them, they start to shed some cells. And my scientific background is not.
No, but I'm following, right? Amy, you're following, right?
Yeah.
So listen, it's basic. You're putting it in understandable terms where I feel like anybody can follow along.
Yeah. So they shed some cells, and what they do is they take those cells, and that's what they use for PGT, for pre-genetic testing.
Gotcha.
They send them over to a lab, and then those, they'll test those cells, and they'll say, hey, this sample of cells that we took were normal, or this sample of cells that we took were abnormal. And then the new term that has come up in the last maybe 5 to 10 years is a mosaic. So a lot of my eggs, I think we only had 2. I think it was 1 or 2. Yeah, it was definitely more than 1. I think it was 2 or 3, one of those numbers. So we had mosaic embryos, and then we had a normal embryo. So we're gonna go with the normal embryo to implant that, and the probability, obviously, of implanting a normal embryo is much better, because with mosaic embryos, they'll tell you which chromosome is something is missing. They're able to tell you that because that's how they're testing it. But for us, because it wasn't a necessity, like, there's a lot of families that do transfer mosaic embryos and they're normal, but there are some that are not, because that could lead to a miscarriage. It could lead to a lot of different variables and complications that you're just not aware of because there's not enough detail. And they're doing more testing. to determine that, which is awesome. But obviously, it's not as advanced as it's going to be in like 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, where we were 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So now,
and if you have one shot, you want to make sure you take the normal embryo that has minimal complications, minimal things that can go wrong, and you said it has a higher chance for it to actually take. Did you ever at any point think, oh my God, what if they're twins or triplets? Because I've heard of that happening too.
I thought about that, but the probability is very slim. It doesn't happen often. And the reason why, so a lot of fertility physicians won't do 2 or 3 embryos. That's how, for example, like Octomom, that's what happened. Like the more embryos you implant, you never know how they're gonna take.
Gotcha.
So I think it's illegal actually. I think that doctor went to jail, but I don't know. I could just make stuff up. But you know, because you're putting that mom at risk too. And then it just happens naturally sometimes too, but it wasn't in the cards for me. And
gotcha.
Thank you, Jesus, because
gotcha. Okay.
So all of this happened during COVID also. So
2020, 2021?
2020, yep. I started everything in 2020. And then, COVID happened. So everything kind of got delayed. And I ended up delivering February of 2021. So, I was going through all that stuff. It wasn't, I think in like April or May was when they reopened their lab. And they were like, well, if you guys, we're giving people the opportunity to now go and do whatever they need, because they need to make money too, right? Their business. Yeah. So, so I was able to do the transfer, and then I delivered February of 21. My numero dos, and he'll be 3 in February.
So really quick,
was a big baby.
Did you know what they were going to be when they were embryos? Were they able to tell you that, or did you get surprised like everyone else when you go for their anatomy scan or whenever you get the test?
Or the blood work. They have blood work now. Yeah.
With my first, we didn't know, so we did like a gender reveal because we didn't do pre-genetic screening. With my second, we did know. We knew that. That's okay. So there were 3. So the normal one was a boy, and then the 2 mosaic embryos, one was a girl and one was a boy.
Okay.
So it was kind of like, okay, we're doing this boy thing now. Let's go.
That's a good question. Like, I didn't know that you could tell that early on. So let's say you and Greg didn't want to know, right? You guys just wanted to pick the normal embryo and have a healthy baby. Is there an option for you to not know at that time the sex of the baby?
Yeah, you can tell them that you don't want to know. They always ask. And I think especially now, people are really good about asking you, even when I go for like when I've gone or when I go for anatomy scans.
Yeah.
They'll ask me every time.
Every time
they ask, do you know the gender? And I'm like, yeah, it's whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, but we wanted to know with the second, because we already knew the pre-genetic testing, was going to be done. So I was okay with knowing. So with both pregnancies, one of the things that I never factored in was blood pressure being an issue, right? Because I've never had blood pressure issues. And for my first pregnancy, I had preeclampsia, which I didn't find out until that day that I went into the doctor. And towards the end of your pregnancy, you go weekly, and my blood pressure was through the roof. So I had preeclampsia with my first pregnancy. And then with my second pregnancy, I had high blood pressure, but so I delivered my first pregnancy at 38 weeks, and then my second exactly at 31 because my blood pressure was so high. So I've been being pregnant now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That's something that was at the forefront of my mind because what happened within the last, I want to say maybe 2 years, I switched jobs. So I ended up going from New York to New Jersey. And I had an employer that had really great benefits. So there was a lot of convincing that had to be done in order for me to have a conversation about trying to have another baby. And it wasn't so much about, trying to have a girl versus whatever. It was more like, I have these great benefits, let's use them. Because,
right.
we've, with our first, we, had the insurance thing. And then our second, we actually did take out a loan. And there's a lot of organizations and companies that work with these fertility clinics that will give you like a low interest rate loan, so that you're able to, go through the process and then just show up. Yeah. And the company that we use is called Future Family. And they were great.
That's good to know. Because
they were great.
Again, these are, like you said, it's the first conversation you and I had when we were talking about you being on the podcast. The first thing that I mentioned was the cost, because it's so expensive, and it's one of those things that like not everybody's able to do. Like you just kind of have to be like, all right, maybe I can't go down the route. But knowing that there's an option to take out a loan, a medical loan specifically for that with low interest, that's good to know.
Yeah, and it's like comparable to LASIK, right? Like when I had LASIK maybe 15 years ago, and I was able to do the same thing. Obviously,
do you recommend it?
Difference.
Do you recommend LASIK?
Yeah, it ran out pretty much. Essentially, I'm kind of like back to square one because your vision is degenerative. Oh yeah, I know
it changes when you turn 40 and like onward. Like your vision is supposed to, or 38 to like. Because you're at that point, even if you could see from far, like closeness, like you struggle a little bit, but you're back to square one.
I'm at like square 8, but I'm testing the waters. I'm wearing glasses.
But could it be the pregnancy too? Because my vision changed when I was pregnant. So with Derek, my vision got worse.
I don't know. I want to say yes, but no. It's been a long time. It's like the last like 2 years have been challenging for my vision, and so I have to get glasses. I mean, for me, it's not so much like it's difficult to see; it's that I have astigmatism, so it makes it more complicated. Everything looks blurry. So now with this pregnancy, I think this is where it became more challenging for me because it was much more difficult. Like I'm much older. I'm working in a different location, so me traveling back and forth to New York was just not an option. So
with 2 kids on top of that,
Yep. So I had to find a clinic which is here. So RMA has clinics like throughout. I don't know if it's throughout the Northeast, but New York has their RMA, which is separate from New Jersey's, and I was able to find a physician near me, Michelin Chu, who was great, and she's very like, again, this is what this is. You're getting old. You're older. You have low ovarian reserve. So let's try it, but I can't make you any promises. Fair. That's all I can take, right?
Yeah.
With
so
that,
what was that process? Was it frozen? Was it fresh? Like, what did that look like for the third time?
It was everything. It was everything. So, I want to say we started in November. What year is it? 23? November. November of last year, October, November. Started with the testing, had the consultation. I had to convince Greg to kind of go through that route. And then he was so gracious. He was like, look, it's not really what I want to do, but if this is what you want, let's see how God works, right? Let's see what happens. If that's how it's going to be. And I'm like, cool, I'll take it. Thanks. I appreciate it.
You got right on the phone. It was like, yeah, we're good.
So I started doing the testing. And then that first round, I had to be canceled because I didn't produce any eggs and they just weren't growing. That same week, that was a Monday that I found that out. That same week, this job that I was like, I have really good benefits. It was one of those things that I was like, I'll probably be here for a very long time.
Yeah.
I was let go from that job that same week. So, and that had never happened to me because I have been working in so many, I've worked at large scale hospitals. And this is my first time kind of switching gears and working for a different type of organization that was just like an affiliate of another hospital. And that completely devastated me.
Of course.
And it was just such a hard pill to swallow because, you really want to put your best effort forward, your best foot forward. And on the heels of the news that I just found out that my cycle had to be canceled, then I get this news. Like, okay, so now my livelihood is in question. Yeah. And they were, they gave me a good package, etc. But it still didn't change the outcome, right?
Right.
So we continued because I still had my benefits. And then I tried it again. Second time, they retrieved one embryo. And when we tested it, it was a mosaic embryo. So, and I was, again, it wasn't worth us taking the risk. We have these two healthy, extremely excited all the time children.
Energetic. Nonstop.
It is craziness.
Yeah.
Let's kind of leave it there, right?
Yeah.
And then I told him, I was like, you know what? I know my benefit is about to run out. Let's try and let's see.
Yeah.
And my doctor was like, are you sure? I was like, I have nothing to lose. Right?
What was the gap in between the 3 tries? Like a week,
it was
2
about
weeks?
A month. It was about a month. Yeah, it was about a month. So, so the first time I think was like, I found that in December, and then we tried it again in I think it was mid-January.
Okay.
And then when we tried it again in March, I had one embryo that they were one egg that they were able to retrieve.
Okay.
That turned into an embryo. And I'll never forget this. The nurse called me when she got the screening back, and the first thing she said is, the little engine that could. And I was like, shut your mouth. I said, shut up.
You're like, shut your mouth, lady.
I told her, I was like, shut up right now.
Yeah.
She was like, Nathalie, it's normal. I was like, you need to stop talking to me right now. This is crazy. So it was more along the lines of okay, so when are we gonna now transfer this embryo? So pick the time that, and I'm still kind of jobless and, whatever, but why not have another
We're coming
kid,
off
right?
the heels of the pandemic, which was a very dark time
it's
too.
Madness. Oh my God.
But this is that light. This is that thing. And what was Greg's reaction to this? He was just after the phone call.
Expletive. I don't know if we can curse on this, but a lot of expletives, and he's just you know what? If this is again, he's like, if this is what it's supposed to be, then let's do it, right?
Yeah.
So, but again, there's also that cloud looming that regardless of what happens, regardless of the embryo being normal, this doesn't mean that it's going to take.
Right.
So for me, I was very I don't want to know anything. I'm just literally taking this one day at a time. Okay. I don't want to know the gender. I don't want to know anything until we know that there's, it's there and and he or she is chilling up in the uterus.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't want to know
fighting through and making it. Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't want to get attacked. I didn't want to get attached to the hope.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they did the transfer, and at this office they had the option. So I've done acupuncture after each one. I didn't mention that before. Because it's supposed to help with the chances. So I would do acupuncture the day before, and then I would do acupuncture after, right after the transfer, because it's supposed to help with the chances. Whatever.
Was that a doctor that recommended it, or somebody from the group that mentioned it?
Yeah, it was physicians. Physicians would typically recommend it. They wouldn't tell you where to go. But with this particular time, they did it was an electronic acupuncture, right? So a laser. I think it was a laser. Yeah, laser acupuncture. And so there's no needles involved. It's literally a machine, but they put it in your pressure points. So your feet, your legs, like your calves. Then they put some in the belly area. Then they put some on your
temples,
forehead or something.
Yeah,
so they had their pressure points, and I was like, whatever. It was $200. I was like, we can do it. Okay, we can afford this. We can swipe this. We'll swipe it a little bit.
That's interesting. I've never heard of that. Amy, you've heard of that? Yeah. I've never heard of laser acupuncture.
Not laser, but acupuncture. Yeah, sure.
You do acupuncture, right?
My sister. No, I was looking into getting some done.
Yeah, but so the laser, what's different between, what are the benefits of a laser versus traditional? Do you know?
So, okay, I'm going to take it back, and this is ridiculous. You're going to laugh. Have you ever seen Final Destination? When the person was, okay, so I have that in my mind, right?
Yeah.
So benefit number one is that there's no needles. There's no needles. It's just a pressure point. And because they could be a little bit painful, and depending on your skin, you can welt because of how because the way that they put in the needle, it's they put it in and they tap it, so there's a little bit of trauma on your skin.
Yeah.
And for me, my skin is very sensitive, so I would get little welts. So that's pretty much it. But I think it just depends on what kind of acupuncture you're gonna get.
Okay.
But this particular individual was solely for RMA and those folks that folks that were having
going through those treatments.
And they only offered it post embryo transfer. So it was 15 minutes. I think it was in totality 15 minutes more or less.
Wow.
You would go in before, and then you would go in after. And they would come in, do the laser acupuncture, and I think it's also good to like just kind of help you relax a little bit.
Right.
I remember with my second transfer, Dr. Lekovich was like, it's good to watch something funny. Like, go watch something funny. And I'm a big Friends fan. So I just put a couple of Friends episodes, and I'm just there like in a soupy laughing in the, in the waiting area until they release me. So I'm like, you know, everybody has their thing.
Yeah.
Whatever works for them works for me. I'm not going to not try it, because at this point.
That's good advice. Yeah.
Yeah. At this point,
I'm already. You're tense.
Exactly. So it kind of helps you relax. And there really isn't, like, going back to Friends, like when Phoebe was pregnant with like her brother's triplets. She like put her head down and was like, look, you can, whatever works, whatever you believe in it, and then just do it and execute it, because you can go from there. But yeah, so I did it, and then she told me that it took, and the pregnancy test was normal, and you get to know the staff because you're there so many times. And I told them, and they were so happy. And then I graduated, right? Because after my 8th week, they move you to your OBGYN. And I've had the same OBGYN the entire time because I'm high risk. Because of previous surgeries. She's at Columbia. She's amazing. Dr. Anita Lasala. I swear by her. She will scold me.
You're going to give us all the deets on all these doctors, so I could put in the description for people.
Yes, for sure. And she's phenomenal. And I've referred her to other friends too, and like family, and she's great. So went back and now that's where I am. Like, I'm 35 weeks pregnant. I'm pregnant AF.
Yeah. But and you found out the gender. Well, you found out the sex. When did you finally make the decision to find out?
Okay, so this is this one. So I told Greg, I was like, you know, I want to know. This was around 6 weeks. Because things, you know, the embryo was growing and everything like that. And I'm like, okay, so I think maybe you can do a little gender reveal for me. And I'm, you know, and I'm like, you know, I at this point I had found another job, which I'm not at anymore, which that's a whole different conversation. But I went to get food, and I'm like, I'm talking to him on the phone, because he really wanted to know, and I didn't. I was like, I don't want to know, but if you want to, and he's really good when you tell him something, which I love and hate. When you tell him something, he'll keep it, right? I can't hold water. Nope. You tell me something, it's hard. I'll try if you really, really want me to, but the expectation has to be very minimal. You know?
Gotcha.
So, because like I'll share with my sisters or like my mom. Like, so I'm like, you know what? Forget it. Just tell me. And I'm like walking back to work. He said, really? You want? I was like, just tell me. He's like, it's a girl. I was like, shut your face. Because he was always like, we don't, like him and he's one of 4 boys. He's like, we don't make girls. We don't make girls. And he's very alpha. We don't make girls. And I'm like, well, look at that.
But you come from girls only, right?
Yeah. So we're all girls. We're all girls. I'm one of 4 girls. So that was it. I was like, this is crazy. And even like now, like buying clothes, and like we just had our shower last weekend, going through clothes, and I'm just like, what is this? Like, what do you put? And I have 2 nieces, right? Like, I got one of them is a newborn. She's 3 months. And I'm just like, I can't believe that, like, we're about to have one of these, like, a girl in the house. Because
what are all these bows about? What is all this glitter and pink about?
Hello? Can we talk about the turbans? I mean, hello. I can't. I was like, I don't know. Even when I was doing the registry, I'm going through stuff, and I'm like, do I want to see him? And so I like Disney stuff. Yeah. And he's like, can we not put the baby in all this princess stuff?
The princess stuff, yeah.
He's like, can we do more gender neutral thing? I was like, I like the Kardashians, I get it, but can we put her in some color? Like, can we get some oranges and purples and whatever? So we gotta find a happy medium. That's discussion number 1. What colors are we putting on the baby?
What did you end up getting though for the shower? Like, what did you put on the registry? What kind of colors?
So I like orange. So like our theme was like a boho theme. So you know, like like dusty rose and like
Right.
purples, and there's definitely Little Mermaid stuff because I like the Little Mermaid.
Okay.
But he was like, "Can you not?" He told me yesterday, like, "Can you not get princess stuff?" I was like, "I'm just gonna tell you right now. Her she said is Ariel, so
What?
that's fine." I was like,
Watch
"What?"
when she's born. He's gonna be like my little princess. Like he's just everything to him is gonna be the princess. So
Yep.
he's gonna be mush. Yeah.
Yep. And it's funny because the boys too, right? Like the boys are very. He says they're daddy's boys, but I'm like, it's because I'm the disciplinarian, right? To a certain degree.
Yeah.
Hello.
Tom is Derek is right now. Tom is his favorite because I say no to things, and he goes to Tom, right? He grabs his face. He's like bar, or cake, and I'm like no, and Tom's like you could give him one, and I'm like
This morning, my youngest comes. It's like 8:15 because my children don't sleep. Let's talk about that. Let's not talk about that. Actually, they don't sleep.
I told you I haven't been sleeping for the past week, so
yeah. So he comes to me with a bag of like those fruit snacks, and it's open. And I'm like, Greg,
it's already open.
He's like, oh, he's like, what happened? I was like, why is he coming over here with a bag of fruit snacks at 8 a.m? Oh, he is? Oh, okay. Vamos a hacerlo loco entonces.
I don't know how he got that. I don't know how he opened it. Actually,
come on, son.
Amy has a funny story about Milo and going into the candy.
So Milo's 3, and he took the kitchen stool that we had.
She took a nap. She took a little nap.
Well, I fell asleep because I wasn't feeling well. So I fell asleep, I don't know, 20 minutes out. And all I hear is, Mom, Mommy. And I'm like, uh-oh. When I hear it, it's like real soft, Mommy. I was like, oh, he's in trouble. I got up immediately. He was on the kitchen counter. He pushed up the kitchen stool all the way, got up, climbed on the counter, and was in the pantry grabbing the candy from the candy bowl. I was like, perfect.
Living their best life. I lost my youngest on Thanksgiving in my house. Right? My family was over, and everybody's like, "Where's Colin? Where's Colin?" Hiding in the pantry. All you see is his little hand hiding in the pantry because he loves popcorn. He loves popcorn. He will eat like 6 bags of. It doesn't matter what kind. He does not discriminate. He likes kettle corn. You give him butter popcorn, he'll eat it all. But both of my kids are like huge snackers. So, but yeah, so that's where we are now. So
did you tell them that they're gonna have a little sister?
Oh, we did a gender reveal for them. So
what did that look like?
So when we had our oldest, Ethan, we did a gender reveal, and we did the cannons, the confetti cannons.
Okay.
So we ordered 4. There were 2 blue and 2 pink. So we still had the pink cannons left. So what we did was we set it up in like we have like a dining room like space that's like open, and I was like, why don't we just do a little gender reveal for them and then tell them that that I'm gonna have a baby, and that it's a girl. So our oldest has been asking. He's actually before I got pregnant, he was like, I want a baby sister. I want a baby sister. And I'm like, well, you never know what happens. Like, we'll see. And so before we did the cannons, I was like, I was like, Mommy's having a baby. What would you like to have? Would you like to have another brother or another sister? And he's like, I want a sister. And so we did the confetti cannons. And of course, I have Greg recording them, right?
Oh no.
I'm telling him, I'm like, listen, why don't you just put it to record on the phone stand so that we can both do the cannons?
You can be a part of it, yeah.
He did the confetti cannon, right? As soon as he shoots it, the phone goes down. I was like, come on, man.
Oh my God.
He was like, yeah, but you can hear the excitement. I was like, it's not the same. But yeah, so we did the confetti cannons and things like that. So, oh my God. And when we told my mother-in-law, because she has
only boys, right?
Only boys. I think it's 6 or 7 grandsons. And then she only has boys. So we told her when it was fairly I was like maybe 9 weeks or so that we told her. Oh my God. And she was just beside herself. She was so excited. She was like, oh my God. And so, and she recently had a big birthday. And a lot of people are like, yeah, we're going to get you that granddaughter. And eventually we'll get, and at that point, not a lot of people knew.
Okay.
But it's pretty interesting. It's definitely been different. I think this is the only pregnancy also that I've been able to work out consistently.
Okay.
And because I'm scared of my blood pressure, etc.
Yeah.
And swelling because my legs get like balloons. But they've been
Okay.
pretty at bay right now. So usually after the baby shower, it's all downhill for me.
Okay.
But yeah, no. So I've been, I've been pretty good, and I'm still continuing to work out. I'm gonna try to do. I go to Orange Theory.
I was gonna say you go
And
to
I
Orange
try to
Theory,
do.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I try to do 2 to 4 days a week, depending on the week.
Yeah.
And so once I get a little bit further, like towards the end of this month, then I'm gonna calm down.
So far, like you're good though, right? Your blood pressure is good. Everything's good. Did you work
Thankfully.
out at all during the first 2 pregnancies?
No, I didn't because with the first one, it was more like you're not supposed to do this when you're getting the
Right.
injection, and
You
you're
don't
not
want to
supposed to do
risk
that.
anything. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And it wasn't really like I didn't start Orange Theory more until after I had my first one.
Mm-hmm.
Because we had moved from New York to New Jersey.
Yeah.
But now I'm just like I've been doing it for I've been like going for 4 years on and off, of course.
Yeah.
But I was like, I need to try to do something different because it's very scary. Maternal health is very scary, especially for women of color.
Yeah.
Right. So that was something that was important to me, and Greg is very understanding of that too. That and even though a lot of it is challenges that I try to win prizes for, which is a good
Yeah.
incentive.
Yeah.
But I really like the community. I really like the camaraderie. And I've been going for so long.
Yeah.
So they already know.
They know your
me
journey.
there.
They know you, and you have that
Yeah.
community. Even if you're going for the prizes, right? Like whatever
Yep.
motivates you, I feel like that's what you should keep. If that's working for you, that's what you should keep doing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do you feel like that's definitely contributed to not having high blood
100%.
pressure? And also, I feel like maybe this time around you're a little bit more relaxed about how it took,
Yeah.
how it's stable. Like, because I feel like the first time around is so unknown. Even though it took the first time, you're still scared. Like anything
Yep.
can happen because you're high risk, right?
Yeah.
So
And like I think at this point, and I'm also much older, right? So I just turned 40. I have 2 boys, and they're very active. And you ladies, I'm sure you
yeah,
have boys as well.
yeah,
There's no sitting down in this house. Well, not this house, this is my mom's house, but there's no sitting
yeah,
down in my house.
yeah.
And it's like you have to try to keep up, right? They say I understand why they say keep you young, but I also understand why they have alcohol, right? Because
Yeah.
I can't wait. I can't wait for that first glass, girl.
Yeah.
I'm like, is it inappropriate if I bring it to the hospital? I mean,
Are you planning on breastfeeding or like, speaking of, because you brought up alcohol, right?
Yeah.
So like, obviously, like what is it? And again, I know we wanted to focus on the IVF, so
No, it's okay.
we really didn't dive into the other stuff, right? Your postpartum,
Yep.
your perinatal, like what did that look like? But what is your journey? What do you plan on doing after birth and all that?
So breastfeeding for me, to be honest with you, independent of IVF, was more challenging. I didn't find out until after I had my first son that I don't essentially produce enough of the hormone, lectin, I don't remember, to produce a lot of milk.
Okay.
So I was pumping 7-8 times a day, and I would just come out with 1 ounce for the day.
Oh.
So it was extremely like mentally overwhelming to move away from like, okay, I can't do like now, independent of the fact that I need scientific assistance to have my babies. Now I need to give my kids formula, and that's an additional expense because formula is also very expensive.
Yeah.
But with my second, I was just like, I tried it, and when we took him for his first visit, he was getting jaundice, and I was like, this is not that serious. Like it's not that serious. Because I was, they always tell you, latch them on, put them on, and then it'll whatever. But it didn't work. So for me, it was just like, they're not going on in these 2 little things. These bags
fed
are
baby
holding nothing.
is best.
That's it. And the most infuriating thing is when I know that there's not enough, right? But then my shirt wants to get wet. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like what point are you proving? Like, just like there's no point in you trying to secrete any milk because I can't give it to anybody. So, I mean, did I get my free breast pump? Yeah. Let's give it a try. I'll try it again and see if it works. But I'll have my formula.
You're not putting that pressure on yourself. Yeah.
No. Because they're good. My second son weighed almost 9 pounds when I delivered him. He was good. He was eating.
And he was and he was born at 31 weeks, right? You said 31?
37.
37 okay.
Exactly. Yeah, 37 exactly. Because she was like, all right, he doesn't need to be in there longer. He was already a big baby.
Yeah.
I gave birth to a little baby football player.
Did you?
And he's still big.
Yeah, they're strong. I mean, Greg is like 6'4", 6'5", right?
He's him and his brothers, they're all very tall. They're very like, I guess stocky because
it's like football player build.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like exactly strong. Yeah. And you're tall too, right? I feel like you're tall.
Relative to my sisters.
Yeah.
I have the height in the family, but I'm 5'5". So.
Wow, I felt like you were tall. I don't know why. I have the memory. Probably because maybe you're wearing heels.
Probably. It's my presence.
Yeah, it's your presence.
The hair gives me a couple of inches.
That's what it is. The hair. Okay, so thank you for sharing about IVF because I know it's not easy. It's obviously, there's a lot of emotions and difficult moments there. What advice would you give to somebody that's like teetering on whether or not to do it or is embarking upon that journey now? Like, what were some things that you wish somebody would have told you earlier on, now that you know, to like help you get through it? Not just physically, because physically we know it's taxing, but emotionally, mentally, to like get through.
I think the biggest lesson and the biggest, what I would tell anyone is that it's okay. It's okay to not have the answer today. It's okay to wait for your doctor. It's okay for you to question your doctor. It's okay for you, to reach out. Like I've seen individuals that, I've known for a long time struggle with fertility things and, fertility matters and stuff like that. And I've never shared my journey publicly just because it was never warranted. But like my friends know, my family knows for the most part, but I don't have shame around it because this is a route that was the only route available for me. And I think as time has passed on, the stigma of IVF has kind of dissipated. And for me, I've never really thought of myself as being a voice for the voiceless, as they say. But I think with IVF, there are so many different stories and there's so many different challenges and there's so many different options and variables that go into it that even if I'm, putting it out there and having like putting words that nobody has ever thought of, like for example, that HSG test that nobody told me about.
Yeah.
When I first started, that kind of started the route to IVF and to where I am today. Like, why isn't that something that's done standard? Or why aren't there any additional testing? Why do you have to wait until I seek you out to find out that I have low ovarian reserve?
Yeah.
Right? That should be something that's standard because everybody's telling us when we're younger, oh, you're born with 500 bazillion eggs. Yeah. And then all of a sudden when I'm 30, I have 4. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
No, like I feel like that's something that I wish was done more. Like there's a lot of research that's obviously done for illnesses and things like that, but why not have some studies that are geared towards fertility and those challenges around that. So it's okay to ask those questions. It's uncomfortable. It is very uncomfortable, but you do have to become comfortable with the uncomfortable when it comes to IVF and when it comes to be your
own advocate too.
Yep, for anything I think gynecologically related or they're really the only advocate for you is you.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're your only advocate and nobody's going to know what you're feeling unless you're telling them. Yeah. And like these bruises I have, I'm going to have them for a very long time because I'm 35 weeks in and I still have bruises from when I was doing injections with my second and from my first. So, and these are physical bruises, not these are not like emotional scars.
You're not talking about emotional. Yeah, you're talking about physical. Yeah.
No, these are physical.
Wow, I had no idea that stays for that long.
Yeah, like, and that's my body, right? And like, being able to endure like, your body being able to endure not only pregnancy, but to endure these continued fertility treatments. It's very difficult and it's very complex. And I think that, for me, right, thinking about the entire picture, I feel very fortunate that I have the partner that I have, because he's always been so supportive. Again, even having number 3, and he was like, I don't want any more kids. Like, I don't want to do this. And I'm just like, but please, let's see if it works.
Let's just see.
You start to barter, like, you know what I mean? But no, like, I think that goes into it as well, having a supportive community and having that level of understanding, because it's hard to have those conversations, I think, for me with your partner, that, not, because I think for a long time I felt like a failure, right? Like, I felt like because my body wasn't contributing the way that it needed to contribute, that I needed to kind of make up for it in other ways. But he never made me feel that way, right? It was more like, listen, just tell me where I need to go. I got my videos, and, and then,
we're gonna get this done.
Exactly, we're gonna get it done. He showed up to the party. He got the RSVP. He said yes, and that's it, right? Because again,
no, these things. You're right. These things can cause people to even separate, have arguments, because one person doesn't understand how hard it is for if it's the woman that's going through these treatments, because sometimes men are the ones that have to go through certain treatments too.
Correct.
So having that partner that doesn't point fingers and say, great, we have to do this now, like, let's not even bother at that point. But no, he was on board, you were on board, and not once did you ever feel like less than, right? Because I understand that feeling of like, you felt like you were less than, or like your body's failed you in this way, and oh my God, what does he think of me? Or what must he be feeling when it's on my body and I have no control over that? Like, you literally have no control over that.
None. And, again, it's a very difficult conversation to have, because even when I was in the hospital and I'm telling him, like, we're still in a fairly new relationship. I'm like, well, I got to get my fallopian tubes removed, and like, and I think we revisited that conversation like a few weeks ago, just talking about, where we are, like, emotionally, mentally, and things like that. And I traced back a couple of different things to that point. And I'm like, I think I have like unhealed trauma from those experiences, because I was very like, all right, this is the next step. This is the next step. This is the next step. I don't have time to go back and, revisit, I shouldn't have done this or that. It was just,
you didn't let yourself process it. You just said, all right, we got to move forward and we got to find a solution. And that's just what it is.
Correct. And it was, and again, I'm very fortunate that I have the family that I have, and I have the support system that I have, because it's a very difficult, enduring process. And trying, I don't know if there are women that have done it alone. I actually have a friend who recently, like, she went through her own IVF journey and things like that. I ran into her in the office, which was so weird.
Oh, wow.
And she just recently had a baby as a result too. And, her having conversations with her about how different her journey was versus my journey. And, you don't really know until people open up and talk about it. And I don't have, it's taken me some time to build up like that catalyst, those conversations.
Yeah.
But it's never been because of shame or discomfort. It's just been because, I wasn't sure who wanted to hear what it is that I had to say. And when I had someone kind of helping me and coaching me and mentoring me, it was helpful for me. But I never really thought about, like, until speaking with you, Giselle, like, having that open dialogue.
How valuable that experience is. Because it is.
I hope so. Because there's so many different variables. And now I feel like, even now, from when I first went through it 6 years ago or 7 years ago, there's so many different options now.
Yeah.
And I think the fertility community is so open, because there's so many different types of families now that exist, right? And so many different types of individuals that need fertility, options, etc. So this is a very open community.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that I'm able to speak about it from the perspective that I'm able to speak about it from, because my experiences, although some were negative, are positive, right? Like I have my children who are probably yelling outside right now. You know, and I
you have your
have
healthy kids and your
yeah,
healthy baby girl is on the way.
yeah,
And you're healthy. That's
yes,
also very
thankfully.
important. You're healthy, because this could be also very taxing on your mental health, like on your emotional health. And again, your relationship with Greg is healthy.
Yeah.
Even with the challenges, like it's made you guys stronger together as a couple, because you guys were there to support each other and to go through the tough moments, because a pregnancy hormones alone will have you crying at a commercial. So I can't even imagine like adding extra hormones onto all of that, and then having to try, and then you're going to work and you're trying to take care of a household with 2 other kids too, and be a partner and be a sister and a daughter and all these other things. Navigating and balancing your emotions and regulating all that on top of the stress and worry of, is this going to work?
Exactly.
Is like, how did you do that? Like how, but I guess you said it right, is your community, your village, your family.
Yeah, for sure. Like we have a lot of support, like from my family, from his family. Like we're very, very fortunate, and we have a very big community around us. You know, especially when, you know, once we moved, like that's part of the reason why we moved, because it was easier for us to have that closeness with, you know, with our families. And you know, we do a lot of things together as a family. Like I'm at my mom's house right now, right? So well, we're here I feel like I'm here all the time, but she thinks I should pay rent. But but we just a very close family. We spend a lot of time together, so that helps to kind of build that relationship. Like if I need to do something or whatever, you know, they trust me that I'm making the decisions that I need to make for my kids, or you know, if my mom or my sister or someone needs help, like we're always here to support each other. So that's a huge weight off of our back.
Yeah,
which is
that's
helpful.
Beautiful. I'm glad that you have that.
Yeah, me too.
And I don't know, Amy, I know you have a couple of questions, unless she answered them already.
No, she answered them. This was great. Yeah, no.
She had a couple of questions lined up for you, but I guess you answered it along the way. I know we're running over on time. We said it would only be an hour, so we're a little bit over. But maybe if you want to set up another time and we can dive into your postpartum and like all of that experience, because I know I told you like I went through postpartum depression, like all these other things, what that looked like for you. We could dive into that in another episode if you have time.
It's up to you, because for me, postpartum was, besides the breastfeeding, I was okay. Like I wasn't, I think with COVID also, I was more like, I'm already kind of home, so I'm good. But I was very fortunate that I didn't go through that. Unfortunately, I had a friend actually that this past summer that wasn't so fortunate and went through her own situation. I mean, it's on the news. She was I met her when I was working on one of the practices, and she's a physician, and it was a murder suicide, and
I'm sorry.
It was a tough. It is so tough.
It is tough.
Yeah. So, you know, not thinking about that, like I compare where I was, and I was okay. Like again, you know, I told, like I have a good support system with my family. But you know, not knowing how difficult it was, and she suffered postpartum psychosis. Which is what led to the outcome. For that, but for me, I was very fortunate that I didn't go through postpartum depression. And I think I've done a good job of, because of everything with IVF, I've done a good job of like over communicating my feelings, because I want people to understand where I am, and I think that has helped me kind of cope. And I've also, you know, I'm big on therapy, so I have my therapist. I'm like, if I'm going through something a little bit more challenging, again, it's not a stigma for me. I'm just like, I'm gonna call her and I'm gonna send her a message and I'm gonna set up my session, because it helps to have that sounding board. You know, that kind of, to help kind of alleviate some of that because it does get hard. It is, I think, independent of being like a parent. I think being a partner can also be challenging. You know, being a sibling, being a daughter.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
being a human being
weight.
itself is hard. It's really, really hard. And like being a parent now, I remember being a kid, and like I'm sure you guys probably went through that too. Like as a kid, you'd be like, I can't wait to grow up and feel, and like you would think that growing up and you see these adults and have my life figured out so I can escape all this stuff. And it's like, no, it's a trap. Like it's worse.
It is. I have a 16-year-old sister, and I'm like, why are you so angry? I was like, you don't pay any bills. You have no reason to be angry right now. Like, talk to me when things are coming in the mail with your name on them that you need to pay. You have no. I tell my kids that too. I'm like, why are you mad? I was like, you don't got bills. There's no bills for you here in this house. All you show up, all you want to do is go to Target and get some toys.
Everybody wants to go to Target and just get some toys. Come on now.
That is a fact.
That reminds me. So I know we jumped into a couple of things. What are a couple of TV shows, and like, I know people are with screen time, blah, 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 but you and I spoke about it before. I know Miss Rachel is obviously a staple. But there were a couple of shows that you told me that the boys were into that you said helped a lot with development and stuff. So
I am all about screen time. I am not, listen, we got stuff to do. It's okay. Because my oldest, he loves to draw also. So he does a lot of screen time, but he's drawing also. But Miss Rachel, they love Blippi. They love, well, I love Bluey, but they love Bluey, but Spidey and his friends. Okay. And depending on where you live,
older guy with the mustache, the older white guy with the mustache,
Jack Hartman.
Yep.
Yeah. The sight words.
Yeah.
I tried it. Derek was like, change it.
What do you mean? He didn't want to see the old guy dancing?
He didn't want to see.
All he needed was some suspenders.
But Jack Hartman. And then,
but I think Jack Hartman more for like the older kids, because it, you know, once they're in kindergarten and like pre-K, they start to learn about sight words and stuff like that. What else do they like? I'm trying to think. There's another. It's escaping me right now, but some of them are not educational because it's just more for entertainment.
Yeah.
My youngest loves to watch like the Omnoms, and they just do like silly stuff. Omnoms, yeah. They just do like silly stuff, and he'll watch it, and he's laughing like it's Cantinflas on the TV for my dad. like he's cracking up, he's hysterically laughing, and it's crazy to see these little kids like, you know, switching videos and stuff like that. But we do go to the movies. Greg and I are big movie people, so we always take them to the movies too, and they're pretty good. But you know, like Paw Patrol and like Rubble and Crew and like those, they do like them a lot.
The Pixar movies and all that, which always make me cry. They're more for adults.
Yeah. Oh, we're looking forward to the Inside Out 2 is coming out.
Next year. But it's next year.
Is it next year? I thought it was in December.
No, it's next year. From what I thought it was next year.
He's looking forward to learning about anxiety. I was like, okay. All right. Let's just jump into that.
Tell him to wait on it a little bit. He doesn't need that right now.
I thought there were 3 emotions, but they only introduced anxiety right now. So
yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to spend it with us and with the audience and share your story, because like I said, I'm sure it's going to help somebody else out there that's on the fence or just feeling those emotions that you felt too of, man, I thought this was going to be simple. Why is it so complicated right now? So thank you very much.
Definitely research.
Yeah. And, you know, we'll get information from you so I can put it in the description for the different doctors and organizations. And yeah, I just want to say thank you. Like,
it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking time out. And I guess Amy has her last words.
I was like, what are you talking about? I'm listening to this really great podcast here. That's happening. No, thank you so much, Nathalie. This was wild. The story was wild. This is very entertaining and educational.
Yeah.
And just good for everyone to hear your side and what your story is, which was, wow. I'm just blown away that you're even here standing. You're like the strongest person I know now.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a lot, but again, you guys having this platform is it's definitely necessary and needed. And I do hope that people understand that all of us sharing our journeys it's complex and it's difficult, but it's something that I think is important to do. It's important for us to share our stories.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I just want to remind everyone that they're doing a great job.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you guys next episode. Bye.
Bye.